Right now, we are in Los Angeles, and we have the privilege of sitting down with this legendary artist. For our viewers, can you introduce yourself and how you kind of got into hip-hop?
For sure. What up, everybody? My name is Camille. I'm an MC and producer from Los Angeles, California. Also represent the Inland Empire. That's my second home. But yeah, I think I was always in music because music has always been in me, just based on family. Like, you know, y'all here at the home base. And this is like where I first heard music at this house. You know, it was all around. My mom, my dad, music buffs, collectors, you know, and I think I had no choice in the matter. I think between genetics and God's, you know, divine assigning, I had no choice but to get into music. But in 2011, just playing around with some freestyle, shout out to DJ Farr. DJ Farr had like 100-person West Coast mixtape. And he was like, I'm, you know, basically going to prove that it's no shortage of West Coast talent. And I had just met Farr, like, you know, just kind of being around. I'm a music buff too. I'm a music head too. So I used to pop out at shows. I used to sneak into shows like in junior high school, and I was a street teamer, you know, so I was always around it and in it. And he reached out to me to help him reach out to some other like artists, you know, to give verses 16s to this compilation. And he spoke to a couple other MCs, and the MCs were telling him that I rapped. So he circled back and was like, well, can you do a freestyle? And I was like, I guess so. You know, quiet as it's kept, I didn't really have any formal training in writing songs and all of that. I really didn't understand what a 16 bar was. Yeah. I just knew that I could freestyle as long as you threw me words and as long as I could think of words. And that's all I knew. So I chose a beat. It was a Swift D beat that he produced for, I believe, Ghostface. And I was like, oh, that's hard. So I attempted to write my first 16. It ended up being like 24. I spit it for my boy Mike Stroh, who he's one of my favorite MCs, especially on the West Coast. But when he heard me, he was just like, are you sure you don't want to do it? Like, as a real, like, you should really, you know? And between Mike Stroh encouraging me, passing it to his brother, DJ Battlecat, and it kind of getting on the blogs, that was my first time doing anything. That's the first time I heard my voice on a recording. Wow. You know, I was just like, I caught the bug, but I was over critiquing myself, you know, but that was my first freestyle. I got on DJ Farr's mixtape. I was just supposed to help with it, ended up on it, and then I've been rapping ever since, you know.
Damn.
It's like a fluke.
That's crazy.
It happened on a fluke.
So right now we're sitting in the backyard where you shot your first music video.
Yes.
Which is a privilege in itself.
Thank you.
Growing up in LA, tell us about growing up in LA and how that's kind of shaped you as an artist to where you're at now. I
grew up in so many different parts of Los Angeles, but I'll tell you about growing up in LA and outside of LA, because that's what really shaped my experience. The neighborhoods that I grew up in LA were full of mixed energy, right? So we in a very culturally and historically known Black community called View Park, in Leimert Park, Hyde Park. We in the Crenshaw district. And my family has been here, you know. My grandmother's born and raised in LA. So my family goes generations back. When certain, you know, factors came into play, I'm born in the 80s, so when, you know, drugs and gangs hit, my family's both sides, maternal and paternal, moved to different areas. So I'm a product of that movement. You know, I done lived on the east side with my auntie. I've lived with both grandmothers, but this house, this has been home base for both sides of my family. My mom is from Inglewood. My dad is from the west side. Well, he's from the Crenshaw district. So I just kind of floated. You know, I've lived in Orange County for a couple years. I've moved around. But music didn't hit for me. It didn't hit that LA was flavored differently until I moved outside of LA for real, and that's when I went to the Inland Empire. I went into my 8th grade year, beginning the 9th, and my mom thought I was getting into some trouble, so she was just like, "You gotta move, like we about to move." So I moved, but that is where I met some of my best friends who were crate diggers, who were DJs, who were beat makers, who were, teaching me the SP, and they were doing all the things I was doing out here around my cousins. I think the culture shock came from not being able to like literally walk to some of the places I was getting this energy and this experience from, and that's when I realized I'm spoiled. I'm waking up to the drum circle. You used to be able to hear the drum circle all the time from my window, and you still can. But I'm just saying, like, to have instrumentation, constantly fill your atmosphere, and then to go from having to like create like a musical energy. You know what I'm saying? It was just a little bit of a culture shock. So when I went to the Inland Empire, I was so grateful to meet so many hip hop heads, so many real music heads. I met some of my best friends through music out there. So that's why I always say the Inland Empire is my second home. But honestly, between both places, I've seen a lot of the same things, a lot of black family dynamics being built, community being built and torn apart in the same breath. A lot of gang violence, just that's a part of the soil, so I seen it out there too. I was like, oh, it ain't no different.
No.
It's just the setup is different. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I just always lived in places that, in parts of LA that I seen myself. I seen black people of all shades and all like lifestyles and backgrounds intermingling in one place. That's my family.
Yeah.
That's how I was raised. So I see somebody who had fallen prey to like drugs or addictions, and then in the next breath I'm talking to like an elder, who did his own book programs and reading, and food programs and stuff, like it, all of that in the same breath on the same block, and I feel like that shaped my dual perspective in music and why I couldn't just stick to who was that, my cousin. So my cousin's into music too. This is my cousin Ant.
What's good, bro?
What's up, cousin?
Shout out to Kobe. Good.
Jersey Day at work. How you doing, cousin?
I'm good.
Beautiful.
Music aficionado, He's almost like my dad's big brother, but it just runs deep. Like, he had a reel-to-reel. He had a whole vinyl collection. He has a whole CD and music collection in the garage, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't get away from it, even if I wanted to. It follows me.
Yeah.
And music followed me. It followed me in every part of LA I lived in. It followed me when I went to college. It followed me even when I tried to pursue something different. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to help artists. I thought I was going to be an A&R. I just knew I was going to be close to music, but not actually doing it, Shout out to my cousin DJ Shanks and my cousin Dave. They had a group called Black Community, and you couldn't tell me they weren't the best group out, but they also did a lot of work with Project Blow. That's, right here, Chaos Network, Bananas. That's a part of my DNA. My DNA is just riddled with all these different creative savants in my family. And wherever I went, no matter the location, I done lived everywhere.
Damn.
Everywhere that you can name within this city, within this county. And I just realized, like, that definitely needed to be expressed some kind of way through me. But I just didn't know it was going to be rap.
That's what's up.
You know?
That's beautiful.
I didn't know.
So, like, ever since we came down to LA, I've never been to LA before. I went when I was like 8 years old to Disneyland or whatever,
Really?
right? But, like, as far as coming out here as an adult and seeing, like, the culture and how rich the culture is here, and just, like, first place we stopped was the Boys in the Hood street where that was shot. And seeing all this stuff in real life in person is beautiful. And the culture is so rich. Like I said, how do you think LA compares to other cities when it comes to hip hop?
We're a mix of everything, and I mean that like in terms of mindset, you know, character, influence, environment. You know, we have all the different climates in one area. You can drive 30, 45 minutes each direction, and you'll get a little bit of beach, a little desert, a little forest, you know. Yeah. And I think that has an impact on the psyche of the people. I feel like we're the recording capital, so naturally, you know, between tourism and the fact that you get a lot of different, like, attractive places in one area means that you can record, you know, year round in LA. When can you not, you know? So with all of that mixed energy, people coming in and out, bringing music, leaving it, you know, record shops opening, closing, those records, you know, being left and handed down, music labels, you know, how many music labels do we have? All the big ones are here. I just think that it creates this dynamic that you can't get anywhere. Like, if you wanted to get a little bit of, you know, I'll speak in terms of genres, but whatever you wanted to create sonically, it could be done here. You know, people say West Coast hip hop has a sound. We do. But West Coast music and LA music is so multi-layered, and it's a fusion of everything and all different types of frequencies, that you have to come here to get that flavor. You know, it's too many. It, like, literally, we could walk up the street and we gonna run into somebody significant to our music history here. You know what I mean? I just don't think that is something you can duplicate.
No.
And again, we got a lot of historical communities, a lot of rich heritage and cultures meshing up. We right next to Little Africa, but then if I go down the way, we in Little Ethiopia and Little Tokyo. You don't think all those vibes is embedded in everything? What? You can hear it. You can literally hear it in the music. You know, it's very musical. And it's a mix of everything. Everything. The weather, the feel, the experiences, the food, everything. You hear it. And it's no one way to describe it, but you know that somebody from the West Coast has a hand on it. You know, if you listen close.
So I was mentioning to you what we focus on with the icon hip hop thing in Vancouver is ciphers.
Yeah.
And cipher culture.
Yeah.
And I've been telling everyone we've been sitting down with that I think, like, the cipher's like the fifth element of hip hop, like the outcast, you know, that doesn't really get as much recognition as I think it deserves. Can you explain to the people what is a cipher and what is the importance of having ciphers?
Ciphers are so important. Excuse me. Cipher, circle, you know, a collective meeting of the minds, really. In this case, in a hip hop sense, a cipher is when everybody gathers around, MCs, you know, poets, wordsmiths, all the people gather in a huddle, circular fashion, and that becomes your training ground for further proving your case as an MC, as a wordsmith, as a lyricist, right? That's the training course. But it also is a chance to be introduced to your peers, your community, So in a sense, it's like sharpening your tools in real time, like that mental tool, that lyrical tool. You know, that pen is not there. It's you and your folks. And, you know, you're popcorning to somebody else. I'll start, you know, a couple of bars and then somebody else will pick up. And sometimes there's a competitive element into it. So it can get really almost like battle rappy, or it could just be like, who really is nice? Like, who can really hold their own as an MC, not just a recording artist, but live and direct? Who could get on the mic and just do something? And that's where I started. I started in ciphers at the lunch tables in my cousin's room, you know, playing around. I think my grandmother has even tried to spit a couple bars, because ciphers are just so naturally a part of how hip-hop folks work. We naturally come together like that. I really feel like it's a black thing. We naturally, you know, cluster up. So to orate, you know, and communicate through rhyme form is a cipher. And that's where I got my chops up. That's where when I thought I was nice and could think of anything, to my right is somebody named No Can Do, who can rap forever. And he'll never stop. And you'll never get a chance to interject because you're not as nice as him. Because he's limitless. And that's where I got my chops up. You know, I was like, nah, I want to be able to like come at the tail end of somebody like that. You know, that's what a cipher is. A cipher is the dojo. You know, it's sometimes it's not peaceful in words, but it's peaceful because all are welcome. If you're ready to step up to the mic, come through. Come test the mic. You know, come do your thing. And I've done so many ciphers. I almost was ciphered out.
Yeah, ciphered out.
Because I used to freestyle to myself a lot.
Yeah.
And as a songwriter, you know, as well outside of hip hop, sometimes me thinking so free form affected my ability to stay within a structured way of doing music.
Yeah.
So I almost had to turn my MC brain on extra and off at the same time when I'm not doing like rap music or I'm not rapping for myself, you know? But I'm always resorting back to the cipher because that's where I was trained. In my mind, I'm like, the source.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's a lot that up-and-coming MCs can learn from coming out to the cipher. Not only do you practice a pen game, but also stage presence as well, and feeling the crowd, rocking the crowd, and crowd participation is a huge thing in hip-hop. We did a podcast with Taquan, the MC, who's from out here, and he was mentioning the importance of stage presence. Like, not only, you know, you could be a crazy lyrical MC and crush the stage, but you got to engage with the crowd too, right? Like, there's some rappers that are boring people that are killer lyricists, and it's important to have those elements. And I think the cipher is the most perfect place to sharpen all sides of the sword. You know what I mean? Can you, being in so many ciphers, can you share any memorable experiences that you've had in a cipher, or you've witnessed any ciphers, or is anything that comes to mind when you think back to being at the cipher?
Yes. When I was in 9th, 10th grade, it was like a couple of dudes. They ended up being my friends, but they were just so amazing. Like, they had this East Coast, West Coast thing, this bi-coastal presence. Yeah. And they would cipher at lunch. And again, I'm still trying to get myself acclimated to a new city. You know, but I also want to let people know what time it is with me.
100%.
But also, I'm like casually rapping. You know, this is still just pastime. You know, I'm not trying to be master of the world, but I wanted to rap with them. And I remember shout out to my boy Tyson and my boy Van. I remember they were rapping. They won grade up for me. They was rapping. beats. I'm talking about beats coming on, off, people beatboxing, pounding on the table. I remember this is around the time Clips came out, so they just had that on loop. And Tyson may have rapped maybe 3 minutes straight, and I just picked up right where he left off, and it was like very natural. And I'll even shock myself that I just like picked up almost like we wrote the verse together or something, you know. And I remember that day, by the time I turned around, like the whole quad was around me. And I, you know, I got a little shy, even though I'm like, you know, I'm extroverted and people knew me. I was just shy about the fact that I had rapped that long, was completely blacked out, and didn't see that there's like 100 people behind me, security guards, all kind of stuff. Because, you know, of course, they're like, what is happening over there? It's not violent, whatever is happening, but what is causing people to crowd around? And it was us rapping.
Wow.
And right after that, like, that was my first experience of people being like, you're going to be a part of our rap crew, Lyrically Most Exquisite. So my first rap crew was Lyrically Most Exquisite. You know what I'm saying? My name back then was Crisis. I was given a name. I felt like I got jumped in. But I got my first MC name. Yeah. You know, I was the first lady of something. We didn't rap nowhere but the quad, but we was ripping. You know, we was serving all the MCs. It didn't matter. And every time they just be like, go, because my mind wouldn't shut off, you know? That was my first experience in the cypher. But a lot of the ciphers off camera and on camera too. I'm not going to front on any of the ones that people invited me to. The cipher I had when I went to Terrace Martin's house, and Corrupt was there, and J-Rock was there. And then June from Overdose came, and June is a master too, you know? And I'm just like, Corrupt is my favorite of all time. J-Rock, one of my favorites of all time. This is like peak J-Rock, you know? June, you know? And Terrace is just producing all these different beats for everybody about to drop something. So he's doing stuff for Kendrick, he's doing stuff for Corrupt, he's doing stuff for me, he's doing stuff for everybody. And he was playing a beat, he was playing like a drum loop, and Corrupt rapped forever. Like he rapped forever, and then was like, get him to me. And that cypher ended up us being like a song, you know what I'm saying? That was the first time I got to like record and hop on a record with Corrupt, you know, because of how long we ciphered, me, him, J-Rock, and he, you know, like, first of all, I was surprised I could hang, you know. What, this is like 2013, maybe 2012, Camille. So I still feel new now, but imagine being a year and a half new and you're like, I just still rap for fun. I don't know what you guys want me to do. And then getting to be around them and hang. So that cypher never was like videoed or, you know, but it manifested into a song in real time with my favorite MC of all time in the world. And then from there, you know, I think word kind of got out that, you know, yeah.
That's crazy. That's dope.
I think he wanted to see, you know, what as young, you know, Mike Rippers, like I think Corrupt wanted to see how on the fly we could be, because he can at any given time about any given thing. He can rap. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you love me, you admire me, huh? Well, I'm battle ready. I'm war tested on the mic. Anytime, don't matter, beat her off. That was Corrupt. And I think he was trying to see if we had it in us.
Wow.
You know?
That's crazy. That is some legendary shit right there. I mean, I would refer to you as an OG in the game, like a legend for sure.
Oh, thanks.
And I think that there's a lot that comes with that title. Being in a cypher with Corrupt J-Rock and shit like that. That is stamped, certified. That screams real hip hop to me. Can you define what real hip hop is?
Ooh, I think about that. I think when they say real hip hop, and I'm saying they, because that could be anybody that uses that term, but I think why they say real hip hop is because it has all the fundamental elements in it. You know, you can hear it. You know, you remember you was talking about all the five, right? You can see it represented through that artist. You know, so when they say real hip hop, who's talking about like culture and community and the times? Who's reflecting the times? You know, whether it be happy, sad, or other, just who's authentic to the times, to status quo. Who also has like an outer identity that represents what they saying on record. You know, real hip hop. Sometimes it comes down to like golden era. You know, I think people think traditional golden era. So sometimes when they say, oh, that's that real hip hop, I think they think traditional boom bap, you know, maybe anywhere between like 93 and like 97 BPMs, head nod, cypher shit. I think that's what people mean when they say real hip hop. My definition of it, though, changes. Because I feel like there are standards that we forget about. Like you said, stage performance. There's an MC, right, that has just a lyrical capability and can formulate bars in a song. But then there's getting on the mic and then delivering to make the crowd receive you, feel you, and then spread the word elsewhere. Like, can you rock the mic? There's graffiti. There's how you present. There's b-boys, b-girls, breakdancing, scratching. Like, there's so many different elements. And I think when somebody represents all these elements, or you see that they hitting at least the majority of the touch points of hip hop tradition more than they're not, then that's real hip hop. Mm-hmm. Like, if somebody was to say like that's real jazz, like, okay, there was like a standard, there was like a certain almost like protocol. You know, jazz has standards. I feel like hip hop has standards. You know, there's certain things that if you master those compositions within jazz, you're considered like a jazz expert, like an expert in the genre, or, you know, right? Mm-hmm. I'm saying that if you understand the origins of hip hop and then all of those elements and how they work and interplay to build this global community, and if you integrate them into everything you do, then you're doing real hip hop. You know what I'm saying? No matter actually what it sounds like. It could be a little bit more boom bap. It could be a little bit more trap. It could be a little bit more conscious, which to me is street rap. They're all the same. That's real hip hop. If that is your reality, and I see it and I feel it and it can be expressed, and then I can trace it back to how hip hop is formed and what our standards are, that's real hip hop to me. You know, you ain't got to hit all the points. Like, you ain't got to pass, you ain't got to get A's on all the questions on the test in order for you to pass the class. I'm saying if I can see at least 4 or 3 of the traditions within, hip hop being kept up and preserved, that's real hip hop to me. Yeah. But some people just kind of, for them, it's all based on sound and probably a certain era, and it's probably 90s.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think Coast Contra does a very good job of that as well.
They are so incredible.
Breath of fresh air.
Yo, I used to see the twins all the time, separately. Just all the time.
Yeah.
And when they did the 4-piece, when they pieced up the 4, this fantastic 4,
yeah,
I was like, oh, We needed this.
Yeah.
They literally, they're not hip hop. There's no argument. If you need them to do this, have stage presence, how do they work with each other on stage? How are they passing the mic and giving each other space to shine? Breath control, concepts. They're hitting everything, like everything as a 4-part group. How do you make space for all that talent, you know? And still be as young as they are, but still represent an era that they probably wasn't even born in for real. They got it honest though. They got it honest. Like, but that's just, they got it in them. Somebody was passing down those traditions that we was talking about. Because you can't just learn what they do on the fly. Like, you got, like, somebody has been saturating your mind with this kind of flavor forever.
Yeah.
For it to come out and be expressed through them like that, that's because it's in them. You can't just teach that in a course. They mama, they daddies, they cousins, wherever they was at, they came up in that. It's in them, and you can tell it's so natural, you know. And I'm like, you know that same feeling like when Black Hippie hit, or Far Side, or any just super group, and you're like, ooh, Villain Park, you're like, ooh, they got it, it's crazy. And they just do. They just do.
Shout out to Black Hippie too. That's definitely one of my all-time favorites. I'm obsessed with the whole entire TDE campus in general. Like, those guys are definitely, like, them in Dreamville, right?
Rightfully so.
Very, very, very talented artists.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it real as possible. We try to stay authentic as possible, true to our roots, especially, like I mentioned, in the scene in Vancouver, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you could give us, you know, being the person you are and having experiences you've gone through, any advice that you could pass down to us to make sure we're doing it right?
Shoot, I think y'all specifically, Icon Hip Hop, is doing it right. Like, it's so hip hop just to reach out, you know, a simple reach out. Communication in hip hop is everything. Like, hip hop is, to me, our main communication tool, you know? So you reaching out to people to, you know, basically highlight them and give them an opportunity to tell their stories, or just give some backstory to everything that they hear. That's important. Like, a lot of people don't care about where it derived from, and that's the problem. Because ain't nothing new under the sun. I'm just a representation of all the generations of MCs before me. But if I don't tell you who those MCs were, how is my legacy extended? How is their legacy extended? So just by making a platform for us to express that, that's huge. These platforms these days are focused on a lot of numbers and hit, you know, Alexa ratings and advertisements, which is fair. People got to make money. But hip hop is bigger than a lot of these programs. And money is not bigger than hip hop's program. So outside of getting money, all the other stuff that's important that we resolved within hip hop needs to be fostered and continued. Like conversations about the state of the world, like war, you know, like recording techniques, like beat making, like sharing, like collaborations. Reaching out is the best thing you'll ever do. Being brave enough to reach out. You know how many collaborations and classic albums started from somebody being brave enough and off their ego to be like, yo, I respect what you do, I like what you do, and I think I could be, you know, in support of that. Or how can I? That's how anybody that listens to me, that's how it happened. Somebody reached out, or I reached out. You know, a lot of reaching out to do. So that's the best thing. If you're reaching out with good intentions and you care about it and you're doing something that you think will continue to push it forward in a way that, you know, will make change, then you're already doing it right. The second thing is, this is where ego comes into play. is that you gotta believe that you're the greatest already. You just got to. It's literally about your mindset. Hip hop is life. You know, music business is difficult, and you don't escape it, no matter how successful you get. So, just having the right mindset and having people that's gonna remind you of why you even do music, or what about music keeps you going, or what about hip hop, or what about ciphers. Why did you do it? You gotta have people around you that's like, the why? Because if you stop remembering what the whys are, you just gonna move around aimlessly. And then, are you contributing to the culture? We don't need just people moving around in it because it's fun and it feel good. People done died. And that's the truth. Can't play about it. So I feel like if you're contributing in any type of way, if you're collaborating in any type of way to the ecosystem, if you're contributing to the ecosystem, you know, if you giving somebody advice, a hand, a new word to use in their verse, anything to propel and keep going, you already doing the right thing to me. You know?
Yeah.
Because everybody's journey is different. What's right for me wasn't right for somebody else. You know, what was right for Nikki or Lauren wouldn't fit Camille. But some of the things that they did, and I took notes. But I got to freak it my own way. And that's just what this is. You're not going to do it all the way 100% right. But did you have the right intentions when you did whatever you did?
Exactly.
All right, cool. Boom. We on. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
So hip-hop being hip-hop is life, like you said. Like, hip-hop has become, and it always kind of has been, is like a major business, huge business. How do you as an artist juggle the business side of things with the art side of things?
I still struggle with it. I've been in the business of it for 10 years. About like 10 years for real? No more. What's 2011 to now? So yes, over 10 years. And I still struggle with it because I never did music to make money, but I always knew you could make money, but I didn't see myself making money off of music like this. I just didn't. But being independent, you learn all the different ways that you can, you know, maintain and sustain and earn. And that really the way Nip moved, the way TDE moved, the way a lot of these independent artists like E40, a lot of the Bay Area artists, their independent push, the way Master P and a lot of the black labels independently pushed, distributed, promoted, and marketed, and toured and did all these things. I was like, oh, well then, I mean, the template is there. It's just a matter of, do I want to have ownership of myself? Do I want to allow and give ownership to other people in my thing? Or do I need support? So for me, I chose the independent route. I love working with labels and small groups and etc. from a collaborative standpoint, but my journey called me to go independent. I wanted to see what it was like to press up my own music. I wanted to see what it was like to enlist my own team of producers and musicians and write and do the creative, but also the admin. So my cousins formed a label and I signed myself to it. You know, they made me a partner instead of making me feel like an artist, a subordinate that didn't understand contracts. They made me read contracts. They made me understand those things. And I feel like it just sharpened me with tools. Like, shout out to people like LaRussell, you know. Shout out to people like LaRussell because what he's doing is easy and hard at the same time. It's a lot of facilitating. You may spend a whole day facilitating one drop, right? Because your team is small and it's you and you seeing all the different things you got to accomplish within this one release. But the reward is so great. You know, it's so great to know that you did it with people that like seen you before you developed into this. You know, so in the independent route at all costs for me, you know, shooting our own videos, doing our own merch, figuring out the mechanics of all the inner workings of music business was important for me because all I want to do is figure out how it works and pay it forward.
Yeah.
And that's what always put me in a dilemma, is because I care about that part more than I do recording. You know, I care about creating opportunities for artists, and when people say safe spaces, I mean that. I mean it every sense of the word, right? But if everybody is told to shut up and rap or shut up and dribble and not focus on the economics, and you don't need to look into that. You don't need to look into your paperwork. You don't need to understand why publishing or splits or anything matters. You don't need to, you just focus on this. This is why we be losing. This is why, because there's the creative, and then there's the commerce part. There's the economy of it. And I want my family to be able to live off my works for life. I want any extension of what I represent in this music community and global community. I want them to know that I went to this place and I brought my design, and from there they printed up 50 shirts. I sold them at X amount, and that money I used to fund my next project or do studio time, or I started getting into NFTs or exploring video production when I was working with other artists. Like, do it all. Try it all. But don't forget that you got to protect yourself, look into your paperwork. It's okay to get paid for your work. I still struggle with that because I would do a lot of this stuff for free, you know, and I have. But it's hard knowing when to take money and when just to take pride. It's still something I battle with. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of money in music. But I think caring how I get that money, you know,
very important.
Is you know, so needless to say, I done missed out on a lot of money, but I'm still kicking.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. So you mentioned that you also do producing as well.
Yes.
I want to kind of dive into that. What is your production process really?
It's so strange because I learned how to make beats 20 years ago, maybe more than that, maybe almost 25 years ago, using hardware that my cousins had. Just whatever they had. And whatever they let me experiment with, that's what I used. The first software that I used was Fruity Loops. It was a cracked version. I couldn't even save anything. My homeboy helped me figure out a workaround on how to save like the song. Mm-hmm. And I got hooked on it. This was like 2002, 2003. I was already like sampling, but I just didn't know that there were other women that were doing music the way I seen the brothers that I really admired doing it, like in terms of beat making. And I would go to beat making events. You know, I was like in the beat scene as a fan, you know, just popping around, and both of my cousins produced. So wherever they kind of went, I would go. I'm exposed to it, but I'm like, where are the ladies at? We in the audience, we on stage as the girlfriends, and maybe one or two here, but this is kind of crazy. So, not seeing a lot of the sisters. Georgia was there. Medusa was there. You know, I remember seeing them. Ty Phoenix. I remember just seeing a couple staples all the time. Mm-hmm. But I needed to see that presence of femininity in mass, like the brothers was having. I wanted to go to these beat events and it be filled, you know? So we saying like 20 years back. So from that point all the way up until the pandemic, I stopped making beats because I was like, one, it doesn't feel like people are accepting of the fact that these things for me are married. Beat making and rhyming and all these things for me feel natural. And why isn't that okay for me as a woman to have that natural inclination to make beats and rap and, you know, and pick up an instrument and draw or do fashion or whatever. But that's why we love Dilla. That's why we love Q-Tip. You know, that's why we love Dre. That's why we love any of these producers. It's because they didn't just they're producing not just music. They're producing all around, and it makes you well-rounded. It actually creates more opportunity musically for you because you understand all these different ways to create something in other fields. You know, to me, design and music go together. You know, I'm like, it's color and frequency and texture, all of that go. All that to say is, I start thinking about those people, the Tyler, the Creators, the Pharrells, all those people, Queen Latifah, and I'm like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna go back to making beats. I'm gonna see. It's therapeutic. Touching pads is therapeutic. Digging through records, physically touching music is a therapeutic thing. So when I went back to my childlike state of just collecting and doing and having my little rig and my setup, it's almost like my music has went up a notch.
Yeah.
And now, with the help of being a part of a great organization called Tech Lamert.
Tell us about that.
Tech Lamert, nonprofit, Black owned and operated nonprofit focused on entertainment and tech converging, right? So basically a home base for people that like music and design and finance and cyber security and all the
whole thing.
All roads meet.
Yeah.
Creative, entertainment, and technology will all meet together, and that's sort of our case. That's how, you know, that's how tech is doing the work, is that everything that is formed is where you see where you could fit. Okay, if I make beats, can't I also learn how to get into sound design? Wouldn't I be able to get into sound bathing and healing? Because the same techniques and, you know, skill set would apply to those other areas.
I've done a
right?
sound bath before.
Right?
Yeah, shit's crazy.
Okay, so it's like, why do people not think of independent or even just people within hip hop or black music having these other opportunities to do other things?
Yeah.
To me, what that's also telling you is that once you stop that thing, like whatever it is, then you're done.
Yeah.
And it's like, but don't you got bills? Don't you got life? Don't you got a family? You mean if you rap today is over, you have no more potential. You cannot eat no more. You know, you can't live. Mm-hmm. There's other places for you. And that's, to me, that's why Tech Lamert is so important. That's why I'm there. It's because I've seen the work that they do, and the case is proven.
And who are some of the founders of that?
Shout out to Rashidi Jones. Shout out to the homegirl Paris McCoy. She became the executive director of Tech Lamert. Terry. Shout out to Lawan. Shout out to everybody. Jonathan, Antoinette, Eric. It's just a lot of different great minds that come together to show people possibility and opportunity, where we thought they didn't exist, where we thought that we don't have presence, where we thought that we can't make a living and earn and be successful. Tech Lamert has done a really great job before me and will after me of making people feel at home and finding a home in their work, in their professional careers and in their personal lives. Just telling people like, well, I mean, if you can do that, you can do that. You know what that does? Like,
yeah,
do you know what that does?
Yeah.
Like that changes things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where I would be if people didn't say, you want to try voiceover? Do voiceover. You want to try designing shoes? Design shoes.
Just
you want
a new spark and yeah.
Kanye, I think the Donda Doc.
Yeah.
What drove it home for me was the amount of encouragement that his mom had for him. I said,
fuck, yeah.
Look how many times and mom, it was like, yo, do that. Like, oh, you doing that? Oh, you should, yeah, well, read this. And have you ever heard of this? And think about that. think about that amount of encouragement, what that could do to somebody that was told you either can't do it or you got to keep doing this for life. That's hell. Mm-hmm. And that's not real. If you could rap, you could sing. If you could talk, you could walk. If you can, like, nah. You know, so for me, beat making, production is like breathing.
Yeah, I want to ask you, you mentioned about digging through crates. Mm-hmm. Can you tell the people how important is that, and is that an art?
Yes. It's an art. It's an art that I feel like is regaining its value. It never lost its value, but I think more of the younger generations and people that already understood its significance of touching physical music and looking and digging through the history of music and reading liner notes are important, because if you lose the story, you will lose the sound. You know, you got to be able to trace back somewhere. You know, especially with all the sampling we're doing, we're borrowing from each other, y'all. But if you don't know where you're getting it from, and if all these physical records go destroyed, or if you don't know how to keep them up, those are our books. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the info. That's our tombs. Those are our pyramids. Those crates is it. I'm opening it up. I'm like, oh damn. Okay. They played on this. Okay, let me see what else they played on. Oh, that's why I like the music I like. Because this one musician played on all the records that I like. And now that has been ingrained in my sound. And then lo and behold, I get to work with that artist in the future. Because I studied it. Gotta study. You gotta study, even if it's outside of the academic setting. Digging in the crates is studying. You know? Picking up music, seeing who did what is important. You know, that small font is so little, but that contribution is so big. And we just need to take the time. And, you know, New World will say, we don't got the time, so just go on social media. Please, like, if your parents or your grandparents gave you music, or if you still got physical music, just hold on. And then exchange and share it. Because that is the foundation. Yeah. Those are the legs. What can you do without legs, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So 2024, everybody wants to be a rapper. Everyone's cousin wants to be a rapper.
Yes.
What's your advice to those that are starting out? You know, what's step one in kind of getting into the game, or just anything you could spit to them?
Yeah, I feel like they just, figuring out why is important. Again, because some people may be like, I'm just rhyming to express. Cool, there's no pressure there then. You ain't really got to do nothing. Ain't no pressure on you. You ain't dropping nothing. You don't got to, you know, just be free. Just create. Anytime you feel inclined to write, anytime you just wanted to have an outburst of a bar or two, just do it. Right? But if you were trying to make a living, figure out what type of living you wanna live, you wanna have, and look at examples in history, in current history, and any peers or colleagues or mentors that can tell you how it went for them. Yeah. You gotta get around people that know a lot more than you, and ask questions. Because just because somebody else seemed like they did this and then it fast-tracked them into stardom, that may not be your track, or you may want to do something subtly different because your identity, your brand, your feelings and emotions are different anyway. So you can't package it the same. You can't house it the same. It won't work. Once you open up the pack, you're like, okay, look like that, not like that. Familiarity, right, will have you choose that option. But don't you want people to get down to the meat of it all? And what is your meat? Like, what do your bones look like? Like, what is your thing? And once you figure that out and you stick to that, or you always come back to it, you'll have a lot of longevity. What is your script?
Yeah, because people resonate with the vulnerability too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I always say it's important to be like at the small shows and dapping up your fans and supporters and like You know, that shit resonates with them. That sticks with them.
You got to.
Can you touch on the importance of that and community and fan base? And, you know, there's a lot of MCs that will have diehard fans that will spend money on them, you know, and like you could have 10,000 fans worldwide,
Yeah.
or you could have 5,000 fans within your city that fuck with you heavy.
Yes. You can even have 50.
Exactly.
50, imagine 50 just in front of you. Like 50 diehard people. That's your mouthpiece. That's your support group. That's your wise counsel. That's your marketing team. Hell, they're gonna literally tell you what they want, what they like, how they were feeling, you know. And I say, you can buy engagement.
Yeah.
Metrics and analytics are important in some facets and in some arenas, but there's nothing more disappointing than seeing somebody that has such a heavy numerical presence, and then when you go to their shows, you're like, well, how come all them people didn't? Yeah. Well, what happened? Yeah. You know what happened? Because you thought that you could skip past the humanity in it. You gotta talk to these people. These are just people like you.
That's what we see a lot of, like, back home in Vancouver too.
Really?
Is yeah, like, you know, there's a lot of that, and people like buying the verified thing or like buying the followers, and then you look at the likes and it's just a completely different ratio, and it's just a lot of like trying to be not like inauthenticity, like, you know, it's just. And
I get it, because all, you know, this world will push you that way. They'll tell you that's the best route, the fast track route. Mm-hmm. I say, and my shout out to my boy Damani and Kosi, but he always said, like, just be undeniable. Somebody will listen. You know, there's certain tools and certain things, so, you know, certain digital media strategies and stuff that will help. But at the root of it all, it just gotta be like really good. Mm-hmm. And it has to really be you, because you're gonna have to keep it up. Mm-hmm. So my thing is like, make sure you really tapping in some kind of way. It doesn't have to, you don't have to literally write everybody that likes you, because that will be impossible at a certain point. But when it comes time to engage in person, let people come to you and be approachable. If you do have opportunity to respond online, right? Do it. If people ask you questions about what inspired your work or your music, do it. I say, don't even be like me, because I'm a little bit of a like recluse. I don't do a lot of interviews. I think I'm just, personality wise, I'm just like, I'm not awkward, but I am. Sometimes I'm just completely like private. So my experience with being so front facing is different from somebody else, and it will be that, and I've just accepted, like,
of course,
right? People are like, you can't be so anonymous and do this type of work, Camille. And I think I can, and I'm still gonna figure it out. I'm dedicating to figure out how to have a private, peaceful life and be potent with every creative work I do. Mm-hmm. But I do know that if you don't engage with other people, because people are, who is going to tell you how they feel? They're communicating back with you about what you just communicated about. Okay, that song was about your ex, girl, that helped me out. Okay, cool. What if I don't release a song for like another year? So the communication between me and that person stops because the song was all I had to say? I have nothing else to say. I'm not going to do a show. I'm not going to do a pop-up. I'm not going to create an opportunity to keep the conversation going. That's a disservice to myself. You know? It's like, well, damn, girl, you over here giving us jewels and tips, and you know, we're sharing experiences.
You owe me.
Hello. Can we talk about, I don't know. There's just more.
100%.
The song is just, to me, the starting point. The person behind the song has a lot to say and share.
Yeah.
And the person that is listening to you has a lot to say and share. And you have to create moments where you guys are talking or shaking hands or even just getting a hug. Energy is super important.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need people to like see you, and you need to see them too. It is, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is just one big classroom for me. I would never know what an MC is supposed to do if somebody would be like, you ain't doing what the MC. Okay, you're right. And then somebody else be like, you the coldest of all time. Okay. And then that changed the way I perform and the way I deliver on the next album. Like, it's certain people, I don't even know their last names, but I can tell you that certain things that they told me are reaffirmed in me just by creating an opportunity for them to come up to me at the end of my show. I'm sitting down, and me being open and receptive to conversation meant that I received lessons and I applied it. And then the next time they heard me, I got better, or I achieved an award, or, you know, something. And I'm like, yeah, everybody is giving up game. And don't think that the song is all the game you got to give, because the buck don't stop there.
Yeah.
Go and shake a hand. Get out there in the streets. Digital life is dope, and you can, again, your numbers could be high as hell. But do you got foot soldiers out here that's willing to battle anybody online, any crazy cult group, that any major rapper online? Is your sturdy 40 ready to go and battle the 40 million somebody else over you? I know I got a sturdy 40 that's willing.
Yeah.
I done shook their hand, or, you know, proverbially, I've shook their hand.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy.
You know?
So off camera, I was asking you, I mentioned to you that I had the privilege of meeting her backstage in Vancouver, Absol.
Yeah.
Can you tell the people your relationship with him and how that started? And
yeah, sure. I met Soul probably 2003. I was going to Cerritos in Compton College. Carson is a place that my cousin's grandmother and, you know, my cousin's folks, that's where they were from. So I was in Carson just in general.
Delamo.
Delamo. So I was just in Carson in general. And again, being a music head, you know, I would see some of the TDE guys at shows in the neighborhood out. I think I met Punch first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Punch first.
Yeah.
I met Punch first. Just being around music, right? And once like I formed a friendship with, you know, the guys, and I was over there. I met Herb, you know. Yes, I want to say I met Herb probably like 2004, because this is before I actually went to Baylor in Texas, and I remember taking some of their music with me out there, because I was like, people need to know about what's happening here. And this is like when Pac Div was like, you know, this is Pac Div, this is you and I, this is blog era, LA music hip, like LA music was cracking. We had Sarah, we had so many different artists, El Prez, we had so many different artists that I wanted to show and highlight. It just so happens that I had been, you know, around them. Another thing is, at Cerritos College, I had already, you know, linked up with DJ Head. Shout out to DJ Head and Street Goddess. Street Goddess was one of the main folks at TDE. Had TDE tatted on her arm. You know, she always had the guys with her. She was setting up a lot of shows and doing stuff, and me and Street Goddess were tight. So I think just by being so close in proximity, you know, to them, Absol or Herb, you know, we were going to meet at some point, and we did. And me and Punch used to trade verses through our Blackberries all the time. And he shared some verses with Soul. And when I would do my freestyles, like, you know, they would play them or whatever the case and hit me up. But that's how we met. We met through music, me being around, me being in Carson, and me being at the OG TDE, studio house. Shout out to Top.
Yeah.
But that was home base. I learned a lot from just watching how they work. It's Voltron. And Herb, to me, was always like, that's the genius. That's the quiet fire.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's had a major impact on myself for sure. Like ever since the first time I heard him, I know every song, every lyric, every bar.
You do?
Everything. And
what's your favorite?
All about his family, about his history, about Carson, and coming here and driving through Carson and being on Del Amo. I'm taking these pictures of the signs and shit. I'm just like, fuck, like nobody understands how important it is for me to be able to be here bumping Absol right now. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. My favorite project, you're saying, or something?
Favorite song.
My favorite song is probably Real Thinkers, and then Be a Man, and Huey Knew Then. I like that track, and just off his new album, my favorite one is probably Good Man, him and Punch, right? Yeah, but he that question was more just like for myself too, because like I said, he's a major influence on myself, and for years since like 2018, I manifested the moment of meeting him. Like, I told my whole family, I told everyone I knew, I was like, I'm going to meet Herb. I'm going to give him a custom jacket that I made for him. And in 2018, I got a denim jacket, and I was already fiddling around with making clothes. And I made one, and it was his verse from Threatening Nature. And it was just like a quick little scribble on the back of a jacket, like you get on your knees every night to pray to a man that you barely understand. Crazy. And then I was like, fuck, like, how can I give this jacket to him? How can I, like, I don't just want to mail it, right? So then I was on his Instagram, and he only follows like 800 people.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, and I see his cousins, I see his aunt, and I see his manager, Matt Miller, and Shaheem, and all these guys. So I'm sending them photos. I'm like, hey man, I'm some kid from Vancouver. I made him this jacket, blah, blah. Nobody responded to me. Nobody even seen the messages. And then I found out when he was doing his Gotta Rap video, he had an artist from Miami, Foss, make him a custom jacket. So I reached out to her, and I was like, yo, like, how did you meet him? Like, how did you get him that jacket? And she's like, yo, like, I've been close with Soul for 10 years. And I was like, no way, like, you gotta hook me up. So then he was coming to Edmonton. I bought the plane tickets, I bought the Airbnb, bought the concert tickets, and I go there, and he canceled the show last minute. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was last minute canceled. The moment I landed, the show was canceled, and then he had to reschedule the show, and it was actually in Vancouver, so I didn't have to fly anywhere, right? And I called up that Foss girl from Miami. I was like, yo, I got the jacket, I want to come down. And she hooked me up. She called Python P.
Yay,
and shout out to P, man, the fucking legend. And I'm outside the venue, and there's a whole lineup for the VIP, and I skip right past the VIP, go right in the venue with the jacket. Python's like, you got the package? I'm like, hell yeah, I got the package, man. Like, I got you. Go backstage and give him the jacket, and he just started crying. He's like, bro, like, this is the amount of work that I put into my shit. And like, I wrote every single one of my favorite verses in like fine liner on this jacket in different parts. So the whole thing's just covered in words.
In words.
In lyrics. And it takes you like an hour to read the whole thing, right? So he's not going to read it right there, but he started reading it, and he's unbelievable. He's like, who the fuck are you? And I was like, bro, I love you, man. Like, I love all your shit. And then he takes my phone number, puts it in his phone, and he gets the camera, and he's taking a video of me. He's like, yo, everybody watching right now, this is officially from the man himself. This is Soul Brother number 3. See, he names me Soul Brother number 3.
Come on.
So I roll with that, and I manifested that, man.
Necklace?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I write graffiti as well, right? So I've been writing soul fucking everywhere for a long time.
Wow.
But Absol's definitely a big part of that. And then once I kind of got into rapping, and people were like, yo, you need an artist name. You can't just be Jacob.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm just do soul. So I dropped a project called Soul. And every single song has the word soul in it, like Soul's Goal, Soul the Prophet, Dark Soul, like all these different souls and shit. And then that video recording of him saying that Soul Brother number 3, I put that in the condenser mic in the studio. And then how
That's
he has
fire.
Kendrick Lamar's interlude on that album.
Yeah.
I put Ab Soul's interlude on my
That's
album.
fire.
Crazy. So I don't know if he heard that, but I sent it to him. I sent it to his team, and that was definitely the highlight of my,
Well, send
life.
it to Fight
for real.
Thon.
Yeah,
You did?
yeah. I sent it to him too.
Well,
He's probably heard it for sure.
he's probably heard it.
But yeah, like honestly, and that's the thing with like the definition of making it, it constantly changes. Like I was just talking with Ghetto Fab here the other day about when we were throwing ciphers in a tattoo shop when it was just 5 guys and a Bluetooth speaker. And now here we are in LA 3 years later promoting a Venice Beach cipher. Like that. Like that's crazy.
That's huge.
You know what I mean? So
That
like
is huge.
from me making little clothes and scribbling my name on shit to meeting Herb and like that's making it to me. You know what I
That
mean?
is.
So it's crazy how the definition constantly, changes and it just never ends really.
I'm like, I miss some of my heroes. I made it already in my mind.
Exactly.
Like, what else am I supposed to do?
Exactly. Like fuck,
People
man.
like, what's next? I'd be like, hopefully, need some more and go to sleep.
You got a festival coming up though, so that's what's up next for you. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you want to say for the future of yourself as an artist, to the people, anything you got coming up or?
I do. I want to say, much appreciation to everybody still in the culture, still representing, still searching for folks like myself that, we're here. We're here, we're pushing sometimes quietly, but, the presence is loud. The community is loud. And I just feel like I just want to say thank you to anybody that's still tapped in or just finding out about me and, telling your friends or sharing it with your kids. Like, I hope your kids listen to me. That's like the coolest, that's the best compliment, is to know that like parents are listening to me, but their kids too. I want to make music that hits all the different generations. And I appreciate anybody that's going back to old material. I appreciate anybody that stays trying to reach out. Again, I'm not a professional social media person. And I'm an artist that likes to choose a little different road to journey on. But I don't disregard the support. That's the only thing that really kept me going. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody supporting. Shout out to everybody that needs support. You need to say something to people, Speak up.
Yeah.
Go get that system around you. Go get them arms around you. Because it doesn't matter how good you are, you need people with you to believe in you, because there's gonna be moments where you don't believe in yourself. And all I can say is that I'm still here by the grace of God and people's support. All the people that thought I was a master MC before I believed in and thought it myself, like, thank you. All the people that said, F that list, F that top 10 list, or female FemC, people that know that I'm not with the title FemC, but I always love my sisters, and people that advocate for me when I'm quiet and I don't drop albums for years. Like, it doesn't go unnoticed. And I hope like the best way that you guys can tell that I care is that every time I drop a project, you see my growth. That's like my best gift back, is like growth. Like, am I growing something out here? So my next project is Brothers and Sisters. I don't know when it's gonna drop. I got a couple, albums coming out. I don't know when they're gonna drop, but I have a lot of music that's coming, and I encourage everybody to create from a true space. That's just really what I want to say. I want to thank my family. I want to thank you guys for coming all the way over here. Really asking really good questions. The questions matter. The inquiries matter, because you give us a chance to speak on things that maybe people gloss over. But that's the sauce. That's what makes me me. You asking me like, certain things. Now we're getting down to who Camille is, and that's important to me. And I think there's a lot of artists that, a Yeah, just a lot of artists that would appreciate you continuing to move like that, because we need more of that. And I think it's because you're an artist, you understand that there's a need for us to create space for each other to speak our truths. And I just think I've been blessed with a lot of people near and far, new and old, that have done that. So that's what I want to say. I want to say shout out to Vancouver. I want to shout out Los Angeles, California, Inland Empire. I want to shout out Germany, because Germany really helped reinforce the fact you could be independent and get support. You could rock a small crowd and make a living. You know, Germany is like a second international home for me. Shout out to everybody up in the UK, because they just care. They just care about independent musicianship. They care about people being themselves. And so those were a lot of the global communities that received me. And I don't talk about it enough, but when I didn't feel at home, I found home in those places. So shout out to everybody everywhere. And again, shout out to you. Shout out to Soul, you know, for being an artist yourself and being like, I think it matters that you talk about you, because you didn't have to, you know? You don't have to interview me, but you did. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to pull up. No, but now my story continues, you know, and thank you.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for coming out. Everybody watching right now, shout out to Icon Hip Hop. Make sure you click that subscribe button, comment your favorite part of the interview, and stay tuned with Camille. We'll put her Instagram in the description, so follow her and check out all the shit that she's got coming out. Peace.